Start with the condition of our economic performance in 2023. So as you can see, Indonesian economic performance was really, really good, and we closed the years with a strong economic growth. I believe the BPS just released the latest GDP. So we grew 5.04% in last quarter of 2023. And for the full years, we grew by 5.05%. I think we have a very good, strong economic growth and also low and stable inflation rate, low government debt, and also a very good performance in our stock index and also in our rupiah. But the question is, if we want to achieve our golden vision in 2045 to be a high-income country, the growth of 5% is still not enough. The continuity is the key, but there is another question. Where's the source of growth if you want to achieve this 6% of growth? So in this slide, we show some simulations. So one of the key milestones, I believe in 2030, we need to reach close to $10,000 USD per capita. So in order to achieve that, we need to grow by 6.6%. But again, where's the source of growth? So I argue, if we want to achieve that 6%, the news of growth should be coming from the maritime sectors. So Indonesia, as you know, is the world's largest archipelagic country with large potential in maritime resources. More than 70% of area is actually sea, with 6.4 million kilometers square of sea area. So we have a lot of biodiversity in our oceans, 12 million tons per year sustainable fisheries production potentials, goods, 45% of goods in world trade are shipped via the Indonesian Sea. We also have the potential from the sea cables, blue carbon, and new renewable energy. This is the potentials. But again, if we look at the data, unfortunately, Indonesian Ocean is largely unexplored. The potential that I showed you before can be more than that. So among more than 70% of area that are oceans, only 19% that already been mapped. And of course, it's gonna be less that already explored. So more than 60% of our ocean is actually deep sea. And we have a lot of deep sea that goes beyond like 6,000 and 7,000 meters. And this area is largely unexplored. Not only unexplored, if you look at, this is the maritime GDP, the share of our maritime GDP is actually still low, 7.6%, but the important one is the right-hand side. So you can see the growth of maritime GDP is actually lower than the national growth. So the maritime sectors not only is unexplored, the realization is still below its potentials. So if we want to achieve, like for example, 6%, if we can increase the growth of the maritime sector, then I think it's very, very achievable. Now, if we look at deeper on the subsector in the maritime GDP, I think one of the biggest problem that we need to fix is the maritime industry. You can see the maritime processing industry, the share, the ship manufacturing is still very, very low. So I think the key, for the priority of the government in the next future is how we can develop the industry by, for example, doing the downstreaming processing. So this is all problems, I agree, but we can see this as a problem or we can see this as opportunity. So we believe that if we can fix this, as the case of nickel, then we can unlock the true potential of Indonesian maritime sector, and it will help us achieving our golden vision in 2045. So, and then I tell you that this is an opportunity because this is also aligned with the trend of the world that now focusing more on sustainability. So I think right now we need to be able to balance between economy and ecology, and I think this is the blue economy approach that mentions by the Minister Trenggono. So this is one of the thing. One of the focus of the trend of the world is right now mitigating the climate change. So how can we reduce the carbon emission, for example? And you can see using approach of sustainable blue economy, we can create a triple win for people, nature, and the economy. So right now, I think the concept is not that there is trade-off between economy and ecology. So if we focus on sustainability, it actually can help improve our economy. So on the right-hand chart, we can see that by doing conservation and restoration mangrove, for example, decarbonize the internal shipping or ocean-based food productions and offshore and energy productions, there are a very high benefit cost ratio and can create a net benefit trillions of dollars in the globally. So I think this is the same case with Indonesia. So by focusing on the oceans, there are many opportunity in the terms of blue carbon. We have mangrove, carbon sequestration is actually higher than the forest. We also have seagrass and also seaweed. In terms of offshore energy, I think the minister also already mentioned, we have potential on tidal energy, wave energy, and also wind energy in the oceans. So there's also potential for industry and infrastructures that can help us achieving our emissions target by 2030. Now, this is the macro. So basically, I believe that the blue economy is the future. We have a lot of potential that's still untapped and unrealized. We can see it as a problem, but we can see it also as opportunity. The macro, and this is aligned with the trend of the world sustainability. So I'll give you one example of potential for investment in Indonesia, which is seaweed. My minister always talking about the downstreaming of seaweed industry. I'll give you the reasons why. This is the case of seaweed. I believe that Indonesia is the most suitable place for seaweed farming. This is important for us in terms of economy. 65% of the productions of aquaculture is actually coming from seaweed. We are the second largest producer of seaweed in the world. And tropical seaweed, we are number one. And the problem is we have 60,000 households working here in seaweed with welfare less than average. But as you can see, we have 12 million hectares allocated for aquaculture, and seaweed only use 0.8% of this area right now. So there is still a lot of potentials, and compared to like cold sea seaweed, so we can harvest it 8 times a year, 45 days, full years. And compared to other sea, for example, in Philippines, our sea is actually more conducive than the other sea in other countries because we don't have typhoon. The sea is also calmer compared to other countries. And if you're talking about the mitigations of climate change, like seaweed, use less land compared to other products. Don't need fresh water. And the CO2 emissions is also lowest compared to other products in land, also in the sea. And this is the huge the downstreaming potential of seaweed. Yeah. So you can see there are potential for biostimulant, billion of US dollars. There are potential also for bioplastics and also potentials for food. So we believe this is important because we can also solve a big problem as food security, environment, and I think not in the chart, but also the biofuel energy. But the question is, how we can increase the productivity. Because right now, if you want to go to downstream, we have problem, the cost seaweed is actually higher. So the problem is we have a small scale and we have traditional method. If we want to go downstream, we need to increase the productivity so the cost of seaweed can be reduced by half of it. We can create seaweed from, we can create bioplastic from seaweed, but if cannot compete with like the regular plastic, with the price right now $250 per ton, then you can do the downstreaming, right? So we need to have large scale of farming and we need to have technology. And Indonesia, so basically by using mechanization and using technology, we can increase productivity so we can unlock the potential of the downstreaming of the seaweed industry. And actually this is already happening in Indonesia. So this is a pilot in Lombok, East Lombok Timur, East Lombok. So we have 100 hectares right now already to 23 plots already there installed the farming. And this is the technology basically. This is the boat. And this is basically the mechanizations. Usually the farmers only tie it manually, but right now we are using a tools equipment to mechanize the process. So the productivity can increase by 5 or 6 times. And also the transportation, this is we're using like a rotator, line spooler. So the cost and the efficiency of the transport from the sea to the land is also going to be increased. Yeah? The efficiency also going to be improved. And there is also, we create the driverless screw anchoring. So the productivity again can be increased. The efficiency also can be improved. So this is one of the examples of the potentials of only one commodity among like the KKP have like 5 champion commodities, but this is one of the examples only in seaweed. So by doing this, by using the technology, by using the mechanizations, we can improve the productivity so we can unlock the potential investment of seaweed into different products, into different downstreaming product. To close my presentation, I'll just give you one number. Yeah. This 100 hectares of seaweed farming only need 2 billion, sorry, I think so only need $2 million of investment, 100 hectares. So from that, it can create 100 additional jobs to the farmers, and it can unlock the potential of downstream, of not only biostimulant, but it can also create bioplastic, and hopefully in the future we can create biofuel from this. This is only for one commodity. I think the other commodity also open a lot of potential investment if we can use the technology to improve the productivity and efficiency of our marine and fisheries sectors. Thank you, but that's my presentation.
Please give warm applause to Mr. M. Firman Hidayat, a great presentation. And next, we also have Mr. TB Hairul Rahayu. Pak Hairul, the stage is yours for the next 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you. Allow me to stand instead of sitting there. So thank you very much. Selamat siang, salam sejahtera buat kita semua. My name is TB, DG of Aquaculture and acting DG of Capture Fisheries. Today, I would like to share with you all about the fishery, but maybe I just focus in two aspects, aquaculture and capture fisheries. To be honest, our Minister, Sakti Wahyu Trenggono, has already explained completely. I just maybe just repeating some word or even some slide. So I would like to start with the title of my presentation about the transformation of fisheries management policies for sustainability and increased investment. Yes. So when we are talking about investment in marine and fisheries sector, of course we have to start with how big actually marine and fisheries sector in Indonesia. As you might probably know that Indonesia is big country, is more than 17,000 island, 6.4 million square kilometer waters area, and then coastline is more than 100,000 kilometer. And then the most important thing is we have a big total population is about 270 million and 140 million population located in a coastal area. This is actually how big Indonesian potential in marine and fisheries sector. We have geographical advantages, we have economic advantages, and we have biodiversity advantages, as already explained by the Minister. So let's start with talking about the market opportunity for marine and fisheries product. Related to the first slide, that our population is quite huge enough, 270 million people, you know, it is now being predicted in 2030 is about 8.5 billion people will need the protein. Of course, it will improve the global fish demand. This is quite an opportunity for us. And when we are talking about the market opportunity, now based on the SkyQuest, at least, you know, China, India, Japan, and other countries is the largest potential seafood market in the world. And then when we talking about the species, at least you can see here, salmon, of course, we don't have a salmon. Tuna, we have it. Crustaceans such as crab and shrimp, and others mollusks such as clam and oyster. We have a lot opportunity to develop for aquaculture especially. Okay, so now how KKP, how the Ministry of Marine Affairs and Fisheries to break down that potential, that challenges. So as the minister has already explained, we now try to implement the blue economy concept with the 5 big initiatives. Now, I would like to focus with the number 2 and number 3, quota-based fishing policy. In Bahasa we call it penangkapan ikan terukur, and a sustainable development of aquaculture in marine, coastal, and inland area for the aquaculture. So, I would like focus with the 2 aspect of the blue economy policy. So, let's start with the challenges actually now being faced by Indonesian people, especially in aquaculture and capture fisheries. So many listed here, but at least, I have already recorded 9 listed for the challenges. First, such as high need for animal protein, increase the value of fish, aquaculture practices that are not environmental friendly, lack of appropriate aquaculture land. Some endemic fish species are almost endangered. And then fish feed raw material are sourced from import. I think the minister has already explained about the need of fish meal for the feed of aquaculture. More or less is imported from other countries. And then number 7, fishing in the ocean is still not environmental friendly. We have already discussed, my colleagues, Pak Jameson, I think has already explored his opinion. Then we can sit together, we can talk later. So then how the policy now is being implemented by the KKP. So there are at least 5 policies. First, we focus with the development of export-oriented aquaculture with the superior commodities. There are 5 commodities. First is shrimp, second is seaweed. Seaweed, I think, has already explored by Deputy Minister. And then tilapia, crab, and lobster. And then for the local people, we develop for aquaculture villages. I think, again, the minister has already explained. And then the third is quota-based fishing zone policy, atau in bahasa Indonesia we call it penangkapan ikan terukur, and development of modern fishing village. Dan yang kelima, the last is modernization of fishing port. So based on the challenges and then the policy, we have a target. At least 5 targets. First target is fish and shrimp production increase from 5.5 million ton in last year to be 12.5 million ton in this year. That's quite ambitious target anyway. And then the second special for seaweed, production increased from 9.2 million ton to 12.30 or something. Oh, time is running. So let's explain a little bit by looking this table, ladies and gentlemen, how a market opportunity and development policy for main export commodities. You can see here there are at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 indicators based on the commodities I have already mentioned. Let's say for the shrimp, look at it, the market value is quite promising enough. And then Indonesian export of 2022, 2 years ago. And then how about the global market share and modeling policy and revitalization policy based on this commodity. Shrimp, seaweed, tilapia, crab, lobster, and then in bahasa TTC, tuna tongkol cakaleng, tuna skipjack, and mackerel tuna. Yeah, this I would like to share how the strategy actually, as I mentioned, the modeling and revitalization. For the shrimp, you can imagine here how the situation, condition here in Indonesia. More or less 82% based on the shrimp land, it is 247,000 something hectare is being implemented by the traditional manner. So this is, with the low productivity. By modeling and revitalization, we try to improve, the product TPT. And then how can imagine, multiplier effect, increase the productivity, increase employment, and so on and so on. Okay, so the same story with the same seaweed strategy. We use modeling and downstreaming. This is the last the situation, the condition, and then seaweed aquaculture modeling, and then downstreaming or added value, and then multiplier effect. So I would like to focus a little bit in how the KKP, our ministry, handle the seaweed culture. We do not use plastic anymore, but we use something, a material related to the environmental friendly. We use coconut shell as the buoy, we didn't use the plastic buoy anymore, because it's quite important for us, the sustainability atau berkelanjutan dalam bahasa Indonesia. Okay. Yes, about the tilapia, I think we have modeling as well. You can see our modeling in Karawang. It is now we are arranging the production is about 10,000 ton per year. The key basic is we would like to revitalize 78,000 hectares in eastern part of Pantai Utara Jawa, because last time it was used by a manner shrimp aquaculture. And then we would like to reduce the burden of natural lakes such as Toba, Maninjo, and so on by creating modeling saline tilapia. And then for the crab as well, more or less the same. We use modeling for the crab. Now is being constructed in Pasuruan, Java. And then okay, this is for the lobster. We now starting to make modeling in Batam. And as I mentioned, we have another program beside the modeling. We have Kampung Perikanan Budidaya or modern aquaculture villages as well. This is just try to focus with the local people. And here we have already stipulated about 210 Kampung Perikanan Budidaya or aquaculture villages has been stipulated by the minister. You can see from Aceh to Papua with the certain commodities such as tilapia, pangasius, catfish, carp, gourame, saline tilapia, seaweed, lobster, and others. And when we are talking about the penangkapan ikan terukur, as the minister has already mentioned, we try to create or to build at least a six zone, based on WPP. I don't know how to say in English WPP. Wilayah pengelolaan perikanan, fisheries management areas or something like that, From here, zona 1, zona 2, zona 3 until zona 6, yeah. Zona 1 I have already recognized because this is in WPP 711, yeah, close to tuna. And then the most challenging one is zona 3, close to in Laut Aru. So we understood that this year, this policy now is being, postponed, but next year it will be start. To anticipate this, we try this year, try to implement modeling of penangkapan ikan terukur in two locations in zone number 3. And then here, to improve the prosperity of the fishermen as well, we create the modeling of modern fishermen villages or Kalamo in Bahasa. This year we try to build another 10 location. 6 in Java Island, and the rest maybe outside Java. In Java Island, it will be split in two parts, eastern part of Java and south part of Java. Okay, and when we are talking about the capture fisheries, of course, the basic infrastructure is fishing port. We realize so many problems in the fishing port. So, you know, we have more than 20 fishing port with the how to say, a lot of burden with the fishing port. So we try to improve the capacity. We try to improve the infrastructure. We try to improve the facilities, including human resources as well. We focus with APBN, you know, a state budget, and then we try to rely on with the PHLN, with the loan. Yeah. So this actually what we are doing now for at least since last year until next year. So how about the investment opportunity? This is related with this theme today, that a lot of opportunity for doing investment in aquaculture sectors and capture fisheries. You know, downstream fishery industry such as fishing unit, cold storage, ice factory is quite promising enough for the investor. And then shipyard and docking facilities, catching and or transporting fish and others. You know, I will not mention one by one because so many opportunity for doing investment in Indonesia. And Pak James Tan, yes, okay, strongly a little bit push us in a bit. Do not worry, Pak James Tan. The government is not sleeping. Yeah, the government always wake up. But how, you know, we try to facilitate with the incentive for new investment. Stable political environmental, yeah, and then a strong policy to support the development of aquaculture, sustainable development to interconnect land, air, and sea, and then tax holiday policy, and so on and so on. Of course, this is not so easy, ladies and gentlemen. We have to try to connect with other ministries, with other stakeholders, with other people. I do believe by doing hand in hand, all our target can be implemented. Thank you very much.
Thank you for warm applause to Bapak TB Hairul Rahayu. Next, we will have Mr. Budi Sulistyo. Pak Budi will present in Bahasa. To the audience, if you need translation device, please raise your hand. Our crew will help you. Silakan, Pak Budi, 10 menit untuk Anda.
Bapak Ibu sekalian, selamat siang. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I will deliver my presentation about marine and fisheries based on Indonesian investment opportunities. Yeah. So this is the competitiveness downstream development strategy. Yeah. If we know that the global demands for the fish production is a high quality, and then nutritious, value-added production, as also security, safety, and healthy. Production is ready to eat, also the ready to cook, and ready to serve. What is our strategy? Our strategy is to build the raw material. Yeah, the raw material is very important. It is how to provide the raw material supply continuously available and meet standard requirement. As include type, size, quality, volume, and price. Supported by good aquaculture practices certificate, also another certification. And then the processing. To provide the processing facilities, support the materials which meet standard requirement continuously and affordable. And then to apply the environmental friendly and energy saving processing technology. and to comply the quality management and food security system. It is like GMP, good manufacturing practices and HACCP. And then to explore the product decertification based on the value added and zero waste production innovation. And also the packing and labeling. To the marketing, to deal the tariff and non-tariff barrier, to strengthen the market intelligence, customer preference and competitor, and to provide the data information analysis. Also business meeting and sellers and buyers. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our two downstream. This is via KKP, also atau via government facilitate the business convenient, access to the capital and investment, and also institutional and business partnership. And then to improve the effective of efficient and fish logistic, and also another important point. Also, ladies and gentlemen, now we have, this is the important slide, where is the position of Indonesian fish production in the global market. This is like a simple analysis and some. Mr. TB also had a presentation about this volume of the product. It's important, the position of Indonesian, optimic for the shrimp. This is the position as we have Indonesian shrimp production, have optimistic market in the US. This is for the cooked shrimp and the bread shrimp. And then the potential market is in China and Japan. Also the seaweed, tilapia, crabs and lobster. This is we make analysis, we analyze every years about the competitiveness of the production. And also if we see this presentation, this data, for seaweed, Indonesia has potential market in European, also in USA for Karagenan. And then for tilapia, we have an optimistic market in USA, also potential market in Canada. Crabs, also we had optimistic market in China, and lobster also in China. Our competitor, Indonesian competitor, main competitor for the shrimp is Ecuador, India and Vietnam. Seaweed, China, Philippines, and South Korea. And for tilapia, China, Colombia, and Honduras. Also for the crabs is Russia and Canada. And our main competitor for lobster, Canada, US, and China. We make also analysis about the opportunity for investment. This is, for example, we have here for the seaweed, processing business. This is like in Wakatobi, Wangi-Wangi. Also shrimp processing also. This is our facility or our service for the customer. If you want to make an investment in Indonesia, come to our office and we will help you to find how to and what investment can we help you. Now, this is the structure of the downstream fisheries value in Indonesia. This is for the micro enterprise. It is dominated by micro enterprise. It's still second 60%. Medium 7, small, and for the big enterprises is 27%. Also for the logistic in Indonesia, we have modeling in Zona 2. This is in East Indonesia for PIT, perikanan tangkap terukur. We have also to strengthen the logistic system and load consolidation. And for the end of February, we plan to export direct from Biak to Narita. This is with load for 20 ton. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is my presentation. Thank you very much.